The time right now is 9:06. It's Alvin Jones and you, and the number one choice for news and information, WCBQ 890 1340. Trust you're having a great and wonderful day on today. Let's go live to Henderson, North Carolina, to talk to Abigail. How you doing?
Hello and good morning.
It's all right. All right, girl. That's all I got to say.
You don't know me like I do, or something like that.
Yeah. We just make the hits even better.
I know.
We don't murder them. We just bring them back.
There you go. I tell you, Tammy and Marvin has nothing on us.
Okay, well, see, I'm not going to go there.
I do not define myself racially. I think it's a stupid question, excuse me, but you have a lot of people that feel like, well, you're not a white person. I don't need to be white. I don't need to be black. Why can't I just be biracial?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joshua. Happy birthday
I identify myself racially as black, as an African American, although I am biracial. That's the only side of my family I know. That's how I was raised. So that's the only way I know how to identify myself.
It's Judy. And who is this? My name is Christina. Yeah, I'm just waking up. I'm just waking up. Say hi.
Well, my father is black and my mother is white. I didn't have any racial problems or anything like that. I never had to deal with anything like that.
I wanted to do this documentary because I was very interested in living as a biracial child in America right now. I'm the product of two different homes. You know, my mother was from Haiti, my father's from Mexico, and I found there to be a difference in the way that society relates to you and the way that you view society here in America because of that duality. The ladies that I interviewed for this documentary, all three share that in common, that they all three come from a different racial background. The other thing they share in common is that they're all three raising children, biracial children, just as I am.
Go watch TV. You already ate. Go. I grew up with my grandparents raising me. My mother was present in my life, but my grandparents adopted me when I was 5. I do not know my father at all, and he is white, but I have not met him. I do know who he is.
Danielle was also a very fascinating case study because she grew up around the same time that I did, during the 80s, and she didn't see herself very differently from her family.
I know, but when can I spend some time with him?
Being of mixed race didn't really have an impact on my relationship with the rest of my family. And growing up, as I got older, and after my grandparents died, you know, I learned more and more of how my grandmother purposefully tried to make me feel like I was not different from everybody else.
Look at her now. This is her a long time ago. And there she is now. Where's your milk? Milk.
Her father is white, but she didn't find out about that until later on in her life, kind of contrasting to mine.
I was under the impression when I was younger that my father was Hispanic. My mom thought he was Puerto Rican. Once again, I don't know what kind of relationship they had or whatever. his first name was Ramon, so I think that she just assumed that because he had tan skin, darker hair, she just assumed that he was Hispanic.
For many years of my life, and I'm not sure why, my mother told me that I actually came from a Scandinavian father, a man who was born in Finland. And so I was half white. It was only maybe 4 years ago that my mother revealed to me that the man whom she said was my father, my Scandinavian father, was not truly my biological father. And she revealed that my father was indeed a Mexican.
I knew I looked different. And my rationalization for how I looked different was that I looked back at my grandmother's family, and there are lots of light-skinned people in her family. So I guess it skipped a few generations, and here I was, where everybody else was dark-skinned. And that was my way of explaining it to myself when I was a child, until I actually found out who my father was.
He started already.
When my youngest son was born in 2004, though, I kind of started thinking that he may have been white. I never imagined I would have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. So once I saw him, I was like, wow, I might be, that other half might be white and not, Hispanic like I've been thinking all along.
You have a certain perception of what your life is going to be like. Being a child, being a teenager, you think, well, this is what my adult years are probably going to be like. And I never factored in having a white child as a daughter, And you could say, well, the one-drop rule applies. She's part black, but it's hard to adhere to that way of thinking when you look at her. In contrast, my second child, and by the time my second child was born, I had already known about my true Mexican heritage. She, being 6 years old, she looks a lot more like me, color-wise.
I had to hide my father. My dad used to come to my school and totally change my life as it was. And I had finally said to him, I lashed out at him one day and I said, why can't you just wait across the street or wait a block away from school? Why do you come to the school? And he would wait across the street for me. And when I came out of the schoolyard, I would see him and I would walk down the street and he would walk on his side of the street. And we did that for blocks until I was out of view of every kid that I went to school with. If he came to the school and kids said, is that your dad? I'd say, no, he's my tutor. I totally denied my father. And I did for a very, very long time. But I had to. I had to survive, If not, it was like you didn't go to the bathroom all day because that's where they got you. That's where they would mollyhop you in the bathroom. So you just denied. That's not my dad. I didn't deny my mom, but I did deny my father.
Even my father, when he was worried about me, he would always say, to me, are you concerned about the other children? Considering he was a teacher and a counselor at the time, he would tell me, are you worried about the other children? Are they picking on you or anything going on? I'd be like, I don't worry about them because they're not who I have to answer to. They're not people that I care about anyway. And if somebody says something to me, I say thank you. And it really doesn't bother me whatsoever. And he looked at me like, okay, didn't have to worry about me at all. Because I don't know, I just didn't care about other people's opinions and other people's hatred or anything like that. If they didn't like me, they didn't like me. It was nothing to say or do about that.
She does not, she's not very much influenced by growing up as an African-American woman. She sees herself as Caucasian, as white.
Go on, Eric.
For years in my life, I really had a hard time seeing myself as black. because I'd look at my mom and I'd look at myself and I'd say, well, you know, sometimes I'd see myself as being white, you know. And it wasn't until I really intermingled with some of my peers in the black community and how they regarded me as being black that I started really thinking about myself. You know, I do have black features, and it started to make me think.
I do believe that some people had made their opinions of me based on how I looked. And I think that a lot of girls didn't really like me so much because of how I looked. In high school was when I started getting all the questions about, is my hair real, and is that a weave, or what are you? All those questions. That's when I started hearing that, was when I went to high school. And I just kind of walked off and was just like, why are they asking me this? Like, I didn't understand it. And I guess the way I grew up, I didn't really have like boundaries of who my friends should be. So I had white friends and black friends and whoever else friends that I wanted to have. And so getting to high school and then realizing that everybody was so separate in high school made it kind of difficult.
I didn't want to be black because black people were cruel to me when I was a kid. The children were cruel to me. I didn't want to be white because they were just as bad, you know. So it was like, no, you can't play with us. Or whenever you go to play jump rope, it was like, here, you got to turn. I'm not turning the rope, I would tell them. I'm not turning that rope. You turn rope. Because they looked at you as being down here as to being up here.
Abigail Allegretto, I found to be a very fascinating and interesting case study. She grew up more in the tail end of the 1960s, the civil rights era, and her experiences being from Louisiana really were very striking, being set aside as being a biracial child by both black and white groups alike. And she's a very passionate woman as well.
During the time I was going to school, which is during the 60s, they didn't accept different back then too warmly. Interracial children were seen as a problem. Those kids, them. Anything outside of the norm. And it was the outside world that had an impact on my life, that said you can't do that, or you can't go there, or you're different and you can't play with them, or don't play with them.
I didn't hear of all that stuff growing up, being like that. And Jessica could probably tell you a lot more about it because she had to go through quite a bit of racial prejudice in Vance County in her school. And in elementary school, she had to go through quite a bit of that prejudice of the black children calling her names and picking on her, fighting all the time. I mean, she was a good girl. All she would do was say, hi, how are you?
It wasn't a lot of fun. It was mostly very emotionally painful.
You know, she was very friendly. She always wants to make friends easily.
Each day when I got off the bus, I was crying and sobbing, and my dad, about twice, my dad went to the bus coordinator and talked to her, and I ended up sitting in the front of the bus where no one could pick on me because I was right behind the bus driver. But I don't think they knew I had a black grandfather because he didn't live with us at that time.
When you have a child, a biracial child, who is stuck in between, sandwiched in between a society like that, it's like the dam that's about to break. You can't trap somebody in a corner and think they're never going to come out fighting. So you become this other person.
In speaking with these women, particularly Danielle, she has an approach to where, you know, if these questions come up with her children as they go throughout their days in school and what have you, she'll know how to address them. But she didn't feel the need to particularly push a certain viewpoint on her children. that was mirrored also by both Jennifer and Abigail, who said that race isn't a big issue for them as far as how they see themselves and as far as how they see their children. And that made me say, you know, maybe I should allow these things to develop quite on their own, organically, through my children's experience. If they have an experience, if they have a comment, if they have a question, then I can address that. But to be enamored with, I have to teach them to be this particular race, or teach them how to relate with this particular race, isn't as pressing an issue.